Another day, another dollar as a holler to the world. I love the way I'm living, love the Gucci, love the girls, love the parties and the clubs, love the models and hot tubs, love the German engineering set on deep dish dubs. Another tour around the world, entertaining the fans. I love walking through the airport, taking pictures, shaking hands. Every day for me's an oyster, crack it open, find a pearl. I love the way I'm living, is what I holler to the world.
Welcome back to Marking Out with MVP and Dwayne Swayze.
I'm MVP, he's Dwayne Swayze.
Right on. P, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well, man. I mean, the Devil's River helps adjust the attitude. It takes the edge off.
Big 10-4.
I mean, bourbon, man. Bourbon is the sweet nectar of the gods.
So before we get started today, man, I want to ask you about the Hurts.
Wait, how you doing, man?
How am I doing?
How are you doing?
I'm doing good, you know?
All is well?
Good. All is well.
We got any new music coming out anytime soon?
New music definitely coming out real soon, man. Had a couple of drops so far already this year, but I'm planning for June, July, August, definitely a summer ramp up in releases. So be ready.
You heard it.
Yeah, a lot of cool, good music coming
My
out.
musical partner in rhyme.
Yeah.
One of my favorite Houston MCs.
Right on. And talking music, right?
Music.
So can you, of course, you know, I'm super salty that I'm not on this. We heard people. We heard people. So how did the Hurt Syndicate theme music come about?
So that's a cool story. And before I go into the Hurt Syndicate theme music, I got to roll it back a little bit to the Hurt business. So when the Hurt business was thriving during the pandemic, Westside Gunn, Wale, and Smoke DZA, they dropped a track called The Hurt Business. And at the time they dropped it, I want to say it was around December, I think, and I lost my phone.
And it was on a soundtrack. It was from a movie that came out that I think Gunn produced. Yeah, I believe so.
See, I didn't even know that. You're telling me something I didn't know. I just remember that I lost my phone that weekend. So I had to get like a little temporary, burner phone. And, when I got my phone back, everybody had sent me links. Like, have you seen this? Have you seen this? Have you heard this? And I listened to it and I'm like, yo, this is fire, this Hurt Business joint. But then I was like, hold on, man, let me hit up Smoke DZA. Like, how y'all got a joint called Hurt Business? And I ain't on it, So DZA said, man, send me the verse. We'll drop the remix, So as you know, I went, wrote my verse, recorded it, and then sent it, and they dropped the Hurt Business remix featuring MVP.
Right on.
And it was dope. It was awesome. Everybody liked it. I was very happy with it. So when Bobby and I had made the decision and we knew that we weren't going to re-sign with WWE, I had already reached out and I told Smoke DZA, I said, hey man, it's looking like me, Bobby, and Shelton are going to get the band back together. And we're going to go across the street. And he was like, what? I said, yeah, keep that up under your hat. I said, but if this works out and we all go over there, we're going to need some new theme music. And Smoke DZA was like, say less.
I got you.
So he hit up Cartoon Beats and gave him an idea of what I was looking for the beat. And, I guess you could say I kind of executive produced the beat a little bit because Cartoons would send the beat to Smokey. Smokey would shoot it to me. I would listen to it and I would say, okay, mute these, turn this up, it's more sinister, this. So we went back like 3 or 4 times until, finally he got what I wanted for our sound. And I said, boom, that's it right there. So Smokey said, you good with that? I said, that's exactly what I want. So then it was up to Smoke DZA and Westside Gunn. I said, you guys put your verse on it, shoot it back to me, I'll put mine on it, and then we'll take care of the rest of it. So Smokey said that when they were recording it, like Westside Gunn, West was the one with the, hey, yo, we heard people. We heard people. And I think even Smoke initially had his reservations about it. Because if I'm not mistaken, I think originally it was supposed to be, we heard niggas. We heard niggas. And they're like, whoa. I don't think that's gonna fly on network, major TV, cable, whatever. So he changed it. He changed it to hurt people. And when I heard it, I liked it right away.
Right on, yeah.
Right away. And when I heard Smoke's verse, I was like, okay. So then I put my verse on
Yeah.
it. And one of the funniest things, I sent it to Shelton Benjamin. Now, Shelton is like me, his musical tastes are real eclectic. And, he even plays a bit bass.
Yeah.
He plays the bass guitar because at my house, he picked up my bass and started messing with it. And now he plays. So he knows music. He likes music. But he's not a hip hop head. So when I played the song for him, he goes, I don't know about this song, man. He said, plus that guy's voice sounds weird.
Talking
about Westside Gunn.
Gunn. Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Because, Gunn, man. Gunn has that, a very unique voice.
Yeah.
And I said, dude, that voice is iconic, man. You don't.
Yeah.
Hey, yo. So, but Sheldon didn't know about it. I said, dude, just trust me on this one. He goes, hey, you're the music guy, man. Whatever, I trust you. So we made a joint. We worked out the business with AEW so that we could license it to them and everything. And it's just been a juggernaut, man. Like from the first time it hit, every week you could feel the momentum of that song play. And then, now everywhere I go, people are, we heard people. Somebody said in Boston, after the show we did in Boston, that there was a bunch of people waiting for the train on the platform, and the whole crowd was singing, we heard people.
Oh, that's wild, man.
Now when I go to indie, when I take indie bookings, I come out to that song, and everybody's singing it. We heard people.
Yeah.
So once again, Westside Gunn and his genius. He had the vibe for that. He dropped that hook, and Smoke has a great verse. I got a great verse, but that song is the hook. That we hurt people.
Yeah.
And once again, Westside Gunn came through. So I want to say thank you to Cartoon Beats, to Smoke DZA, to Westside Gunn for once again coming through for a dope joint. And man, I think it's safe to say, man, like we got the hottest.
Oh, without a doubt. That's the hottest entrance music in the game.
Got a hotter entrance song than the Her Syndicate.
Yeah, right on. And this time you're on the original version, like Luda said.
Like Luda said, I'm on the original version. Yeah, and we're having a great time, man. And it's so cool. Like, it's gotten over so much. And the Her Syndicate has gotten over so much that when we're in the back, before we come out, when fans in the arena know that the Her Syndicate is coming, they start singing it before it even comes on.
Oh, man, that is wild.
During matches, during the course of the match, the crowd just starts, we heard people, we heard. So it's been a blast, and I thank all of you who are streaming it, downloading it, that are playing it, that are supporting it. Thanks a lot. As a matter of fact, even for a Fourth Rope in Las Vegas, Smoke DZA had a bunch of vinyl made. And a limited run, and it all sold out.
Word.
It sold out like right away. He said people were coming up. Is this the We Heard People song? And they bought it, so it's all gone. So I got to talk to him about getting a run of vinyl made, so I can bring it with me to some of my indie bookings and sell an autographed version of We Heard People.
Some of the Patreon subscribers would love that.
You know what? That's a brilliant idea as a gift for our Patreon subscribers.
See, I'm always thinking about y'all. I'm thinking about y'all.
Business. And yeah, we're going to take care of you guys. That's a great idea. We got to get on that.
Yeah, right on, man.
But that's the story of the Hurt Syndicate with Smoke DZA, Westside Gunn, MVP, and our theme music, how it came to be. I'm very proud of it, and I'm glad you guys like it. Thank you.
What's the biggest difference between independent wrestling and being a part of a major promotion?
Oh, man, that's the biggest difference between being part of an independent promotion versus a major company is the difference between you playing flag football on the weekend and working for the NFL. And that's something that gets me. Like a lot of young talent that work a lot on the independent scene without consistent television are misguided and under the impression that because they've had a lot of indie matches and they got a lot of indie experience, that they're ready for TV. But wrestling on live television versus wrestling in front of 300 or 400 people at an indie show is very different. And there's a lot of professionalism that goes into it, knowing where the hard camera is. Because when you're doing television for a major promotion, you're doing everything to the camera for the viewers at home. The people who are in the arena in attendance, like, and this is something I see young talent do, the hard cam, the one that the viewer at home is watching the show from. They don't think about the viewers at home. They're thinking about the people in attendance. So instead of coming out and going to the hard cam and, doing their stuff or whatever, they're doing it to the house and have their back to the hard camera, doing their signature or whatever. And, since I've been to AEW, there's a few young talent that I had to pull them to the side and say, hey, man, don't worry about the house. Do that to the hard cam. That's where most of your viewers are. The people in the house, don't pander to them that way. Do everything to the hard cam. When you're setting up your spots, think of the person who's watching it from the camera there at home. And independent, and don't get me wrong, you have some very well-run independent organizations. But usually, they're not running television every week. They're not in a different city every week. Usually, it's a much, much smaller budget for a show that, goes from a few hundred to some independents are really successful and they do well, and some, could pack a few thousand into a building. But it just comes down to the size of the operation. If you're playing, your weekend softball league, it's organized and you're playing, but that's not Major League Baseball.
10-4, right on.
So if you have an opportunity to work for the WWE, that's like the NFL. When you get a chance to go work for a company like AEW, this is a $1 billion company with television and you've been in the back, so you see what it looks like. The miles and miles of cables and the containers and the whole crew, everything that it takes to make the production happen, for you to be able to tune into Dynamite or Raw and even Impact. They're smaller, but they're still television. They're still a major company. They're not as big, but it's the same thing. And you have people there that have a lot of experience in television teaching some of the younger talent.
The independent promotion at your home base at CCW?
CCW.
Is that like televised locally?
I don't know if they have a television deal or not. I don't know if they have a YouTube thing. I'm not sure what their television is. And then shame on me. I should know because I'm very close with everybody there. But yeah, it's just the difference of like doing a local play at your local playhouse versus doing a major production on Broadway.
Understood.
Or a major Hollywood studio with, explosions and, versus doing an independent film where people are working on a shoestring budget, just trying to make it happen. But it's cool because you see some indie companies have established themselves as professional companies and they use young, hungry talent and they put on good shows and, they built their fan base to where, they might be running once a month, but they're consistently running, a dozen shows a year, once a month, packing 500 people into a local community center or, a rec center or something. And that's nothing to sneeze at. I'm not dismissive of independent, but like I said, just because you play flag football on the weekend, that's not the same as being in the NFL. You can have a great flag football league where everybody's very talented and it's well run and organized, but at the end of the day, you're not in the NFL. And it just comes down to, the professionalism, the amount of money that's involved, and the size and scope of the production. And, just a little reminder for you guys, men and women that are on the independents, if your dream is to be on television, whether it's AEW or WWE, there's a lot that goes into learning how to work television versus working a live show definitely versus working an indie show. And there's a phrase called indie-rific, and it's people that their wrestling is tailored to like the independent scene, and they do a lot of things that you just should not do on television, and it definitely wouldn't be tolerated like in WWE. There's certain like this indie-minded stuff. Sometimes the accessories people want to use for their characters, like that's really juvenile. That's or
okay.
or the comedic spots that people want to do. Like, no, we don't do that here. That's for the indies. You want to do ha ha and make people laugh. Not to say that there's not a place for comedy, in a major company, but there's a lot less of it, and it's done differently. So this just the way the mindset on the independent scene versus a major company. Like I said, it just comes down to the same as somebody who's their weekend softball league or flag football league versus getting called up to the major leagues.
Yeah, pickup game versus the NBA.
Right, yeah. It's way different. And you might think you're ready for that next level. And then you get there and you go, oh, there's a lot I don't know. And you have to learn it. And the only way to learn it is to learn it from people who have done it or who have been there.
So who are some of the people who hipped you to do this move to the hard cam when you started?
Oh man. So for me, I was very fortunate that in South Florida, when I was coming up, there was a lot of local TV.
Okay.
So there was TV, I think Cousin Junior had a promotion in Ocoee, Florida, and he had like Time Warner Cable. They had like a whole, I don't know how he got that, I still don't know. Like for a little while, IPW had a local TV thing. I did something with Championship Wrestling from Florida, where they taped a bunch of episodes at Miami Highlight, and I was on like 4 of them, and those things were on the Sunshine Network in perpetuity, forever. So around Florida, I got to work quite a bit of independent TV, and luckily for me, in Florida, you also have an influx of guys who worked at WCW, or you have guys who were name guys who did TV, and they a lot of the time were cool enough to take those of us that had potential or were being featured and would sharpen us up to say, okay, that's the hard cam. You want to do it to that. Or when you cut your promo, you got 2 minutes and you got somebody behind the camera that's going to count you down to let you know when to wrap it up. So I got a lot of those lessons on the independents from OGs like Steve Keirn, Ricky Santana. There was a bunch of people that I'm drawing a blank now, but I was fortunate that I got a lot of that seasoning before. And then I got sent to Puerto Rico, where I got to wrestle for our IWA, and that was a promotion. That was a territory. We worked 5 nights a week and did TV 1 night a week. So again, there I was getting more seasoning, learning how to work for the camera. I had who was a booker back then? Dutch Mantell. He gave me a lot of insight on how to work for TV, how to, and then once I got to WWE, that was a whole, Vince McMahon says, you make your money here, and even in developmental, before getting called up, Jody Hamilton ran Deep South, him and Bill DeMott. So we would do TV, I think on Wednesday nights or Thursday nights. And then the next day we would watch the matches and we would critique everything and talk about who did what and explain. So,
like everybody in production?
No, not production, just all the talent.
Oh, okay.
Because it was Deep South, so it was independent.
Yeah.
So it was not a big production crew, but we would take the TV from the night before and we would all get our chairs and we would all sit down and come in and we'd have our coffee or whatever. And we'd watch all the matches from the night before.
Okay.
And after each match, we'd have, like I said, Bill DeMott and Jody Hamilton and the talent. And we'd say, okay, let's talk about that match. What was good? What was bad? What happened here? How do you do this better? How do you not do that?
Oh,
and we'd have that conversation.
Real life game tape.
Yeah, in real time. Because from there, you're going up to TV. Mm-hmm. So you're supposed to be getting prepared for TV there. Now, there's been all kinds of issues through the years about the, criticism about the developmental system, how well it works, does it work, That's to be debated, but I know that I got a lot of experience and practical information that prepared me for when I did get called up. But even then, you know, I don't care how great you do in high school, when you get to college, it's like, oh, wow, okay. And no matter how wonderful you do in college, when you graduate from college and now you're out in the workforce, okay, you went to law school, now it's time to go to court and be a lawyer.
Right,
you know?
right.
Nothing can replace real-time experience, but that was how I was able to get a lot of the insight that I did as I was coming up getting ready for TV. Thank you so much for joining me and Dwayne Swayze on our show, Marking Out with MVP and Dwayne Swayze. And if you're made it to this point, then you probably figured out that this episode is just a little bit shorter than usual. So I wanted to make that up to you. If you like the intro song, it's called Holla to the World. And it's a song that I made literally like right before the video we shot literally before I took off on a flight to go wrestle for New Japan. And check it out. There's some cameos in there. Let's see who you can spot. Leave them in the comments. Some wrestlers, some rappers, few people that came through for the video shoot. But enjoy Marking Out with MVP and Dwayne Swayze. We thank you so much. This video is Holla to the World.
Another day, another dollar as I holler to the world. I love the way I'm living, love the Gucci, love the girls, love the parties and the clubs, love the models and hot tubs, love the German engineering set on deep dish dubs. Another tour around the world, entertaining the fans. I love walking through the airport, taking pictures, shaking hands. Every day from music noise to crack it open, find a pearl. I love the way I'm living, is what I holler to the world. Wake up in my bed and I'm feeling kinda stuck from this Tempur-Pedic mattress. I don't wanna get up. Roll out of bed, plant my feet on the floor. There's a girl wrapped in my sheets, don't know her name anymore. Hit the shower, scrub myself fresh and clean. Get dressed in fresh Adidas and some Preston Diesel jeans. Pull on a white V-neck with a horse and rider. Go back to the girl in my bed and sit beside her. Hey pretty girl, I hate to wake you from your slumber, but it's time to go, so leave your name and number. I walk her to her car and click my gate open. She says, and in her eyes I see she's hoping that she'll get back to this palace that I live in. I'm sure she will, I dig the sex that she was given.
Now I'm gonna call you for real, I promise.
Another day, another dollar as I holler to the world. I love the way I'm living, love the Gucci, love the girls, love the parties and the clubs, love the models and hot tubs, love the German engineering set on deep dish dubs. Another tour around the world, entertaining the fans. I love walking through the airport, taking pictures, shaking hands. Every day from music noise to crack it open, find a pearl. I love the way I'm living, is what I holler to the world.
Another day, another dollar, and this 9-6 Impala, young executive, making decisions without a collar. My currency's increasing, certainly we not leasing. Got a knack for spitting fire that keeps my wrist freezing. When I see a shooting star, just can't help but smile. A superstar like my Adidas compliments my style. In St. Croix back at home, H-Town chillin', swimming in this pool of sharks just for money and the women. And everybody always wants to know the answer to it, and I'm just trying to make it, baby, that's just how I do it. I got a newfound respect for this game. Back hustling hard, the #1 spot in my aim when I'm on top of it. You can play this back and call it prophecy. Back up in this bitch though, and I don't plan to stop for shit. If you wanna be a part of Dwayne's world, cut the swisher, get the filler, then holla at me, girl, come
Another
on.
day, another dollar as I holler to the world. I love the way I'm living, love the Louis, love the girls, love the parties and the clubs, love the models and hot tubs, love the German engineering set on triple chrome dubs. Another tour around the world, entertaining the fans. I love walking through the airport, taking pictures, shaking hands. Every day from music noise to crack it open, find a pearl. I love the way I'm living, is what I holler to the world. I ain't gotta lie about the places that I've been. Check the facts, Florida State DLC gave him 10. You don't wanna see some of the places that I've been to. I talk about accomplishments, you still talking thin too. You standing there gawking, maybe even stalking. Cat got your tongue, you incapable of talking. Starstruck or stargazing, seems I'm always phasing. People blown away by my presence, I'm so brazen. I'm used to the praising, fans love my phrasing. Mr. Primetime TV, half man, half amazing. Burning up the charts, what the hell that I'm raising. I can think of other things I'd rather be blazing. Caught in Times Square, make way, let me through. Whoopi and Sherry wanna hang out on the view. Barbara asked me questions about Sherry, but I'm ducking her. Elizabeth Hasselbeck's dreaming about me. Shh. Yeah, you win gold top 20s where you beat, but I go live in front of 5 million people every week. 45 million more if you count the rest of the planet.
But I'll explain that to you after you increase your global awareness.
Another dollar as a holler to the world. I love the way I'm living, love the Louis, love the girls, love the parties and the clubs, love the models and hot tubs, love the German engineering set on triple chrome dubs. Another tour around the world, entertaining the fans. I love walking through the airport, taking pictures, shaking hands. Every day for me's an oyster, crack it open, find a pearl. I love the way I'm living, is what I holler to the world.
What is the culture like in a locker room?
That's a very vague question. What's the culture like in a locker room? You know, what's the culture like in your house as compared to my house? You know, the culture of the locker room is a reflection of the company. So the AEW locker room culture is different from the WWE locker room culture. It's different from the New Japan locker room culture. When you're dealing with independents, the locker room culture depends on who the locker room leaders are, the ownership of the company. If you have maybe like some younger owners that are, you know, more into independent wrestling and, you know, don't really care to preserve the traditions of the old school, then it's a lot more liberal, a lot more laid back. It's, you know, kids are playing video games in there and, you know, kind of hanging out. It's a different vibe versus the OG locker room environment that I was in, where when I came up, you know, you had grown men that were earning a living, you know, and rather than, you know, protein shakes and video games in the locker room, there was beer and whiskey and cocaine and pills, you know. So I would say locker room culture has improved over the years across the board because pills are no longer a prevalent thing in pro wrestling. I lost a lot of colleagues, a lot of friends through the years to drug addiction, specifically pills. And when WWE introduced the wellness program, I mean, let's call a spade, follow the leader. That whole cool thing about, you know, doing pills and getting wasted started to disappear, and it stopped being cool. Because I would see younger guys trying to impress the older guys with, hey, brother, I got some pills, man, you know, to get in with the guys. Hey, man, you know. And fortunately, I don't have an addictive personality when it comes to opioids and pills and all that. So, I mean, caffeine and sugar, oh, man, I'm an addict, you know. But I'm just lucky that I didn't have that. But yeah, locker room culture varies from company to company. And it's just the corporate culture. The locker room culture is a reflection of the corporate culture. And in WWE, it was one way because your locker room leaders were guys like Undertaker. And, you know, nowadays your locker room leaders at, you know, WWE are guys like, you know, Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins. And AEW, your locker room leaders are guys like Jon Moxley and Samoa Joe. You know, so, you know, you do have some guys that maintain, you know, respect and honor in the locker room. But because the corporation is a little different, what's expected in the back is a little different, maybe a little more relaxed. You know, I know for a long time, you know, just in WWE, you know, you had the main locker room and then you had the TV locker room, TVL, and like you didn't dress in TVL until you got invited to dress in TVL. So if you just got called up, you dress in the main male talent. And once you get to a certain point, then somebody might invite you to come dress in the TVL.
And what is TVL?
TV locker room.
Oh.
So when they shoot the locker room, backstage locker room stuff, that's the TV locker room.
Okay.
But it's for WWE. AEW is different. In AEW, you have certain talent that they have their own dressing room. Like the Elite, they have their own dressing room. Mercedes Moné has her own room. Chris Jericho has his own room. Samoa Joe, Moxley, you know, they have their own rooms. And then you have male talent. And then the Hurt Syndicate, we have the Blue Room. It's kind of, we don't have our own room, but we have a room. It's kind of weird. But it's cool because personally, I've always thought that the concept of having an open locker room where everybody's kind of, melding together is all right. But I also respect the hierarchy. Hey, man, if you've done enough to establish yourself as a star on another level, then yeah, you've earned, I used to get a kick out of the fact that Undertaker, like he would have his own room and you could dress in the Undertaker's room by invitation only.
Oh.
And I remember the day that I got invited to dress in the Undertaker's room. And it was like, oh, and I was looking around, I'm like, oh, okay, these are like the boys in here. It's like, all right, but don't walk your ass in there and try to, think, yeah, I'm going to get dressed in here. Like, people just going to look at you like,
yeah, get your ass out of here.
So that's a whole nother thing.
What about the guys with and girls with the buses?
Well, yeah, that's a whole nother thing. Because like at WWE, buses were a thing because of the live events. But live events have become less and less.
Oh.
So I don't know the necessity of a bus anymore for live events. I don't know how that works. I do know that in the beginning, the buses were, only a few people had buses. Taker had a bus. Big Show had a bus. Triple H had just top, Cena. But then over the years, with salaries going up and people being able to negotiate more, a bus also became like a status symbol. Not just that I got the fat contract, but I also got a bus in my contract. And I remember Bobby had a bus for a while. And after a while, Bobby was like, I don't even need this bus. I don't use it enough, So it's pointless for me to have it.
The company's paying for this, though, right?
It depends on how you negotiate your deal.
Oh.
In some cases, yeah, the company's paying for your bus. In other cases, no, you're paying for it, but it's a tax write-off.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So, and to think where once upon a time you were driving 3 hours, 4 hours in between towns. Now you got a bus driver. You get on your bus after your match. You got a refrigerator. You got food. You got a shower. You got a whole bed. So you can get on there, eat, take a shower, go to bed, and your driver's driving. You don't have to worry about the road, a hotel. You don't have to worry about any of that. Get to the next town. Your driver drops you off at the gym. You go work out, get back, and luxurious living by comparison to be able to be at the status where you have a bus. But and at AEW, nobody has buses because we don't need them. The way it's laid out.
Okay.
At AEW, all we do is TV. We don't do live events. And Tony Khan, the way he has it set up, is they fly you in, they pay for your hotel. There's a bus or a shuttle that takes you from the hotel to the building, and there's a shuttle that takes everybody from the building back to the hotel. So there's really no point to have a bus, And in that case, maybe I know some people have like their own car service where they get, a black car, a SUV to pick them up and drop them off. And only a few people have that, but, it's something that they negotiated in their deal. And, that's the extent of it. But generally speaking, the culture is a reflection of the corporation and ultimately the locker room leaders. We've done it again.
Another successful episode?
Another successful episode. And I want to say thank you for joining us yet again. I don't know what you're sipping on, but as you can see, we're kind of fond of this Devil's River bourbon. Big fan. And
thank you, Dave.
Uncle Dave. What should they do?
Oh, guys, do us a favor. Go down to the description. Open that up. We've got links to the Patreon. We've got links to MVP's social media. I'm marking out our show's social media, and we've got links to my social media as well, Dwayne Swayze.
Click follow, join us, and to our Patreon subscribers, I appreciate each and every one of you. I hope you're enjoying the content. I hope you're enjoying the stuff.
The stuff.
The stuff. We got the stuff for you.
See you guys next week.
See you, Space Cowboy.
I just lay back in something new. Whiskey 21 and over, low ball. Make it too neat. DZA from Harlem. Yeah, I'm from Houston, off of Fondren. Mike Mazan and real world flow. Plant these seeds in the streets and in weeks. Watch it blossom. Dark night, riding on chrome, swinging through Gotham. It's me and P, repaving these roads.